So thanks for the opportunity of speaking. Those who attended the conference last year will know that the research indicates to us that 1 in 7 Australians will experience a natural disaster sometime in their lifetime. We also know that 1 in 3 Australian women will experience at some stage in their life violence from their partner. So these are quite concerning statistics. The research that came on top of that, and it was particularly relevant to Victorians after Black Saturday, was clearly that times of natural disaster, we see an escalation in family violence. When you think about it, natural disasters are normally a time of stress for all families, for all people involved. People are invariably worried about the safety of their families, their loved ones. Invariably they're looking for housing, the challenge for housing, the challenges for employment. It's a time of high stress. Alarmingly and concerningly, what we've seen, it's also a time for a real escalation in family violence. And the added challenge, of course, is that we're not always looking for family violence in those times. While we're looking for other stresses and other things, the people who are responding, the people who should be helping in the recovery phase, aren't always alert to the signs. And we need to be more alert to those signs. Victoria Police, I think, have been leading in this area for at least 10 years. We've made enormous progress, but we had 50,000 reports of family violence last year. They continue to grow, those reports at around 20–25% per annum, and we know that family violence is still very much underreported. So there are some real opportunities and some real challenges we need to get to. There's also some real challenges in terms of supporting people who come to us for family violence. Increasingly, we're conscious of the involvement of kids, and this is a key because if we're going to fix the family violence problem long term, we need to do a couple of things. We need to intervene early and break the cycle of family violence, so we need to be very mindful of the kids. We need to demonstrate to kids the respectful relationships and what a respectful relationship looks like. So we need to intervene early. We also need to deal with recidivist family violence. That's a priority for us. The research that we've seen in relation to natural disasters helps us again to focus our response and our recoveries. But it's also an indication for police and for practitioners about the challenges that stressful times provide. So while this research is very much about natural disasters, I think it's particularly relevant in terms of times of high stress. At the moment, we're seeing economic challenges in the community, we're seeing downturns in funding for all sorts of sectors, so there are times of financial stress, so we need to be mindful of that. I'm glad to hear that we're getting the opportunity to further explore this research, to use it. We've changed our training, so our recruits are now also given some understanding of what to look for and the difficulties that natural disasters will provide. So thank you very much for the opportunity to speak about this. We love the research coming through. It gives us a chance to do better. There's plenty of challenges, there's plenty of opportunities for us to do better. I look forward to the results of the conference.
What do you think the reasons are that emergency responders would not be alert to family violence?
I think we're actually focused very much on the here and now and the visible, physical things that we see from a natural disaster, and just not mindful of all the people impacts. One of the other things and that's a good opportunity to talk about that, I talked about early intervention, but the masculinity of emergency service workers, that whole cultural piece around the way that the community itself views women often is a real challenge for us. Until we address those challenges, not just in the emergency services but right across the community, we're not going to succeed in the long-term reduction or long-term solution of the problem. So I think there's a combination of those things. We tend to be masculine environments, we tend to be job focused, we tend to be looking for the physical results, and there's probably a reality that will dismiss any indications of stress in the relationship just as, oh well, that's to be expected, when what it should be, it shouldn't be expected, what it should be is a clue to us that we need to look further, and we need to make sure that we're providing support to generally the women who are involved in these situations.
Yeah. What kind of pressures are on police after disaster?
Well, you know, when I read this research, we respond and we're part of the recovery, but we're probably also going to be part of the problem Our emergency service workers, the police, fire, ambulance, all those people are going to be themselves under greater stress. So while as police responders dealing with family violence, as an employer we also need to be conscious that we may be seeing the same problems in our own employees, either as victims or as perpetrators. So that's a particularly challenging thing for police managers in response to natural disasters.
What kind of changes have you made to training of recruits?
We regularly review the way that we train our recruits, so the research last year was helpful in us pointing out to recruits the sorts of things to look for. It's really encouraging for me to see that while we've had increases for the last 10 years in terms of responses, in terms of us taking out intervention orders and taking charges, those increases are still going on at about 25-30%. We've had an enormous change in our workforce with the extra 1,700 police. So we've had the opportunity to introduce this research and this training to many of those people coming through in the last 12 months.